So I guess I will get into the actual point of why I'm doing this stream, and that's the people that are like all talking about the brush versus Splatana stuff. And actually, since I posted that tweet, a lot of people's views on it have actually flip-flopped. So the original tweet I made was talking about how I had seen many discussions, both on Discord and on Twitter, and even in some YouTube comments, about people's concern that the Splatana would outclass all the brushes and make the brushes irrelevant. That's incredibly incorrect. And then the flip-flop is the same. I see people now, since I tweeted that, people in Discord, especially, I only really noticed it in Discord chats, saying that the brushes outclass the Splatana and make them completely irrelevant. Neither class makes the others irrelevant. And if you think of it the same way how like we have both the brushes and the rollers, both classes still serve their own purpose. The brushes don't make the rollers irrelevant, and the rollers don't necessarily make the brushes irrelevant. I think the Splatana and the brushes are going to be very similar to that in terms of their dynamic, where they serve different functions in the team comp, and I don't think a lot of people are really looking at it as a team comp. They're looking at it solely as a weapon v weapon thing, which is the same sort of mindset people had in Splatoon 1 of comparing the rollers to like the Octobrush, where it was like you went one or the other. It was never both were good in situations. It was either the roller was better or the brush was better. And the reason why I think this is the case is just looking at the footage we have of the Splatana, it looks like it's going to excel primarily at close range combat, and then its turfing is like non-existent. Where if you compare the brushes excel in painting and then still have kill potential. So if we were to like compare, where was the Splatana shown? Okay, so if we look, like its actual ink coverage isn't very good. Like it doesn't paint a whole lot. It paints its feet, which is actually really big for something like this that has to stand its ground to fight. But it like paints in straight lines, and you can see that it's like skipping. Like it doesn't paint a solid line. It creates little blobs as it swings. So it doesn't even create a consistent path to swim in unless you swing multiple times. And then, yeah, it looks like, at least from this angle, it creates the three blobs. The one you stand on, the one a little bit forward, and then wherever the little slash ends gets painted as well. And then you have this swing will actually give you a path forward, but takes longer to build up. So this is probably not going to be people's main means of painting. But just looking at like the paint, that's like one of the biggest distinctions, is that the paint of the Splatana looks to be so much inferior to the Octobrush. And if we go back into just this, if I were to just swing, it only takes a few swings to have the entirety of in front of me painted. And while Octobrush doesn't always paint its feet immediately, it takes a couple swings. I think the Splatana painting its feet instantly is going to give it a bit of an edge in close range fights and sustained fights where having the ability to paint your own feet is important. But just the pure paint is actually kind of big. So the comps where you don't have a whole lot of paint power, like if your comp just has a lot of slayers or like a couple slayers, a backline, and you need something that can paint while still contributing to fights, you would want to play something like the Inkbrush or Octobrush. Both can paint exceptionally well, like are one of the best painters in the game, and then still have the ability to hold their own ground. But if you have comps where, like, say, you had like a Junior or an NZAP, or things like your comp is already built around just map control, but you still need something that can be a Slayer, that's where you could play the Splatana. It doesn't matter that it can't really paint, because in theory, you would have a lot of paint control already, or you can team up with somebody who can give you that paint control, like just walk around with your Junior or your NZAP. Just something that'll actually give you the paint control that you need. I think that's one of the biggest distinctions, and why I don't think they will outclass each other, is that they serve different purposes in comps. The Splatana, at least as it looks, is going to be more of a slayer as opposed to a painter, and the Octobrush and the Inkbrush are more painters than they are just pure slaying. Now, of course, there's still a lot we don't know. Like, we can't really see a whole lot, and this may change as, like, the actual game becomes available and we can actually play it and see how it plays. And then not only that, the Splatana also isn't very quick. It's not very quick. Its time to kill is very low. At least it seems like it. Because it looks like it takes 3 to 4 slashes, which would make it do about 30 damage, whereabout there. So that is also something it loses out on, is it doesn't have nearly as much damage as the Octobrush. But again, it's something that you would probably pair with something else. If you had, like, chase this guy with your end zap or something else that's there to help paint your feet, this entire situation changes. And then you could also play it more assassin type, where we see here that a charged up slash to the back or maybe even to the front is like an insta-kill. This could be how a Splatana could be played, just like an assassin type. But I see a lot of people that sit on one side or the other about how they outclass each other, and I don't think that's the case. They serve very different purposes in a comp that I don't think makes them outclass each other. Now, I could definitely see, like, brush players, like even I'm going to, play the Splatana. And I could see, like, the people that play brush at a high level right now picking up Splatana and playing it in comps that need more slayers than they need painters. I could see that happening. That's entirely something that could occur. It's definitely a weapon that probably closely sits in line with those that play the rollers and the brushes. So I would probably see more brush and roller players moving to the Splatana than, like, a shooter player. Of course, everyone's going to try it. Everyone's also going to try the stringer, but I don't think a lot of shooter players are going to stick to the Splatana. I think it's a lot of roller and brush players that are going to stick with it. And it's just because the sort of play style is similar. But it fits in a similar camp as to why I don't think the rollers and brushes clash and outclass each other, because they ultimately actually serve different purposes, where even the rollers are more of slayers than they are painters, and that's even just dependent on what kit you grab, where the brushes, no matter which brush you get, it's mostly all paint and slaying potential. In terms of, like, weapon pools for certain players, those that gravitate more towards the rollers and brushes will definitely be the ones that gravitate more towards the Splatana, because they're already used to that sort of play style. They're already used to that sort of mindset of you are something that's close range. You are something that has to get up into people's faces. And I think that's why people are so concerned about things being outclassed, is the presence and the idea of it seems so close in line with another weapon that they're afraid that that weapon will now become irrelevant because the new thing is better and cooler and can be designed, differently, and could be just made better inherently because it's a new thing. If we were to look just purely at the potential of the weapons, I don't think they outclass each other. Their purpose is entirely different, and it's the same with rollers and brushes. They both just serve a completely different purpose in a comp that I don't think will actually overlap as much as people think they will. And they won't result in one being inherently better than the other, because I can see at the highest point, the highest level of the game, it really boils down to the comp that makes which one better than the other. And that's really how it should be. These weapon classes shouldn't straight outclass each other and make others irrelevant. It is what plays around it that makes certain things better than another one. Now, of course, this is all likely to change once we can actually play the weapon when we get the Splatfest test fire at the end of the month. Then we'll actually get to see what it's like, and if it actually plays similar enough that it could replace it or sit in the same camp. But just looking at what we have, I would bet money saying that it doesn't outclass the others. I don't think they make each other irrelevant. I think that their purpose are completely separate from each other.